Welcome to Faith, Family, and Freedom, the show where we stand on truth, strengthen our homes, and fight for the future of our nation. Here to remind you that our faith is our foundation, our family is our first ministry, and our freedom is our responsibility. So grab your coffee, pull up your chair, and let's talk about how we rebuild these walls, one family, one community, and one act of courage at a time. Welcome back to Faith, Family, and Freedom, where we're on our healthcare journey with Reclaiming the Temple. Katie's here with me, and on our last two parts, we went over a little bit of the healthcare journey. We talked about chronic inflammation and your diet and how everything can help you out. And our Bible verse that we are focusing on through this series is, Do you not know that your bodies are a temple to the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. 1 Corinthians 6:19.
So I'm on my healthcare journey that I'm just now starting. I went through, changed a bunch of the products in our house. I'm really hoping to make our family healthy again. We now are kind of focused on our kitchen table and what we put on our table, what we feed our families, and try to make us healthy and strong again. So if you have any amazing ideas, any products that you guys use, please put them in the comments. I'd love to try them. And let's get into the 3 top things that are killing you right now that you can change in your life.
Yeah, the funny thing is that when I was getting this together, it's like, you don't need a medical degree to understand this, but you do need someone that understands medicine to teach it to you, right? So the things we're going to talk about are insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, and mitochondrial burnout. That's a hard word to say, mitochondria. Every time I put it into a search engine, it says myocardium, and that's a heart cell, but mitochondria is the energy cell in your body that helps you stay strong and healthy and get energy out. So let's dive into insulin resistance. We talked a little bit about it in the past in the episode. What is insulin resistance? Well, we all like food. I know I like food. But in your kitchen every day you have carbs, right? Our favorite things to eat as a family are bagels, cream cheese, yogurt, soda. Those are all delicious foods, but they also increase your sugar level. How does that happen? You eat the carbs, it goes into your body, it turns into sugar where you're supposed to use it so that we can run, fight, jump, and do our day. But if we don't use all that sugar up, it gets stored as fat, energy cells that we can use later. And so with that, if we keep on pumping those fat cells full of energy storage, we obviously get bigger and bigger.
So I have a question, though. You picked some interesting foods. I feel a little called out there. Those are some of my favorites. You're calling me out on my bad habits there. Those definitely, especially, I mean, a good bagel in the morning. Come on, guys. Like, that's like a little bit of yogurt with it. That sounds, I mean, I thought that was healthy. I thought that was good.
Yeah, and I've always thought that black coffee in the morning is fantastic. So I won on that one. I'm not getting insulin resistance for my coffee, but the peanut butter sandwiches that I really enjoy that like knock me on my butt and I have to lay on the couch afterwards, those ones will cause some high degree of insulin resistance. And I have successfully gained 10 pounds of peanut butter sandwich in my life. And I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed every bite. But we cannot have insulin resistance if we're going to try to stay healthy. So as you increase all that fat into your cells, the cell can only hold so much. And then I said, dude, I can't take anymore. I'm going to release some enzymes against the insulin that's driving this carbs and sugars into my cell. And when it does that, you have insulin resistance. Now that sugar is inside of your veins. Your blood is like sludge at this point, and all your other body processes are hurting because at a cellular level, you cannot function. That causes the next thing, which is that chronic inflammation, right? The chronic inflammation happens. Later on when we cue it up, we're going to talk about how that affects your cardiac health and how inflammation in your arteries and veins cause increase in plaque and strokes and heart attacks.
So, like, what if there's, like, people out there that are super fit and they're working out and doing things, and they don't seem to have insulin resistance.
Well, insulin resistance is measured on a lab. So some of those healthy, fit people, if they're getting garbage in, they're still getting garbage out. They just have effectively mobilized their body to use the sugar that they're consuming. So if you go out and you're hitting it hard every day and you're lifting weights and you're exercising and you're just like eating pizza all day long and peanut butter sandwiches like I like to, if I were to work out 3 or 4 hours a day, I probably would not look like I was unhealthy on the inside, but my cells are not functioning correctly and utilizing the nutrients that we need.
Gotcha. Okay, so question for you: when we switch that up to eating the correct foods, then does that make it so that our body is able to utilize those fat stores so that we can shed the weight?
You hit spot on, and that's why you don't need a medical degree to do this kind of stuff, because if you're putting good food in and your body's using that, and whatever it doesn't use, it's pushing out, it's not storing it as energy, then the energy stores that you have already are going to, your body's going to tap into that because it needs that energy from those fat cells. So then that's what they call the visceral fat and all that other stuff. But you will eventually start losing the fat cells, that stored energy, because your body needs it. And that's why it's very important to eat a high protein diet with vegetables that are in season. And I have a video queued up, and awesome video that talks about heart disease and the link of carbohydrates that cause issues in your body.
Probably 50% of heart disease around the world can be linked to poor diet. The core, most important biological phenomenon in the body that leads to heart disease, which is not disputed, but there's no market for the message because you can't commodify this. This is an interesting thing, right? But it's really important information. It's called insulin resistance. Insulin is a very important hormone in the body, released by the pancreas, helps maintain blood glucose within certain ranges so our cells can function optimally, all right? Over time, if your insulin is chronically raised too high, or if your cells become resistant to them for whatever reason, that is the most important driver of the development of these so-called plaques, these blockages in the arteries. So what causes insulin resistance and how can you combat it? Most important components: diet, okay? I would say in big figure terms, probably 50% of heart disease around the world can be linked to poor diet.
How much sugar do I need to function and to be healthy?
The amount of sugar that you need to function and be healthy is 0. There is no nutritional requirement whatsoever of this, what we call added sugar or table sugar. And the reason for that is, very briefly, our bodies need glucose to survive, but you don't need any dietary source of glucose to survive. Your body will make it itself from fat and protein.
Okay, so that is so interesting. You don't need sugar. I always thought that you needed it as like kind of one of the food groups. I mean, I obviously, limited amount, but I didn't realize that you just need 0. That is crazy.
Now, that's the thing, is like, people don't know that you get sugar from the foods that you eat. There is a trace amount of sugar in your vegetables and in your fruits, but in your meats, it's a fantastic way. So to decrease your insulin levels, eat high protein diet with fresh vegetables, and to decrease that inflammation in your body is another thing that we need to hit home, because it's simple and it's easy. We just have to do it. So get some activity, eat proper, and then take out the seed oils, right? So we talked a lot about chronic inflammation and different ways that you can actually help yourself in your own body with your cooking. Is get rid of the canola and the soybean and bring in the olive oil and the beef tallow. We've been doing beef tallow at home, and it's actually really good. And then we've been saving back some of the drippings, me and the kids, not her, some of the drippings from the beef and the fat, and then using that for our eggs and potatoes, and it's actually really good.
Yeah, I actually find it very delicious, but kind of weird at the same time. I mean, not gonna lie. But I did, on my Maha journey, I've heard a lot about the seed oils, but you're telling me they cause inflammation?
Yeah, so there's some oils that are good for your body and some oils that aren't. The animal fats are really good. Your body can use them. They can digest them very easy, but it's like, as humans, we've done a really fine job of like concentrating compounds that were never meant to be concentrated. So like when people talk about ancient foods, it's like olive oil was like easy and ready to produce, but these other oils were not. And so when they're ultra processed and have chemicals added and all these names you can't even pronounce on the back of the label, it's probably not good for you. And in turn, they've actually showed that it has caused inflammation in your body based on lab work. Dr. Ben actually put something together that talks about the inflammation in your body and how the inflammation and the insulin resistance is actually causing immune system problems.
Wow.
So we'll go ahead and cue up that video.
But you do have a reason to be concerned. Here is a paper that was just published that documented the effects of high glycemic variability on a particular subset of immune-related cells. And what they found essentially is that people who have glucose levels that are going like this all day, or a high degree of glycemic variability, also have much higher activity of very pro-inflammatory immune cells, especially when compared to people who have glucose levels that are nice and quiet throughout the day. Their immune cells are much more quiet, and thus they have likely lower levels of inflammation. So the noisier the metabolic signal, the louder the immune signal is going to be as well, suggesting greater inflammation.
Well, there's the connection. I totally, like I said, I'm floored. I obviously really need to watch out what I eat and what carbs I eat so that I can be healthier in other areas. It's
Right.
crazy.
So that like leads us down. We were talking about insulin resistance. We were talking about chronic inflammation, and then mitochondrial burnout. So it just cascades into that. So we talked about earlier, like you said, that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and it really is. So if we're feeding that mitochondria, that cell that is supposed to produce energy for us to like function throughout the day, so we don't need 5 cups of coffee, like we need to feed it good, clean energy. And in doing so, if we don't do that and we have sludge running through our body, then we burn out of mitochondria. So no energy. You lay down, like the peanut butter sandwich I always eat. I got to lay down on the couch and like, think about myself for a little while. After that for like 10 or 15 minutes because I'm like so sluggish. The insulin levels have spiked. The inflammatory markers are probably going through the roof, and like my mitochondria are saying that they're not happy with me right now. But if I fed it something good, something turkey, cheese, eggs, all those things, then I actually feel a lot better. I feel like I'm running on clean energy. I'm not bogged down with a bunch of carbs.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm on board. Gotta keep that clean energy for our mitochondria.
Yeah. So I queued up another video. It's going to talk a little bit about my mitochondrial health. Great podcasters that you've heard before, but really it's like eat fatty meats, fast on occasion, get exercise, go outside in the sun, and start grounding, if you know what that means. So we'll show the thing, and we'll get a little more crunchy with the grounding later.
If you can keep your mitochondria healthy,
How?
exercise and reduce consumption of highly processed carbohydrates.
We need to be avoiding these microplastics as well.
You know, the problem with microplastics, they're very ubiquitous. We're not really sure. We're just now becoming aware of it. Nobody really knew that before. Yeah, look it up. But it could cause small foci in different populations of cells. But it's very hard to really chronically damage mitochondria. Mitochondria are a tough organelle. The problem is we chronically abuse it without realizing what we need to do to keep it healthy. So even if you are exposed to chemical carcinogens, even if you are exposed to all these things, but you're keeping your body as healthy as you possibly can, you could possibly delay or even prevent the damage to the mitochondria, even though you are being exposed to this.
I love that shot of the cell on there because we've all had to make like a diorama of that at some point in our lives. So
Takes you back to grade school.
yes.
Right? So to go over it again, the 3 enemies that we want you to end today that can cause you to have great health outcomes. We want you to decrease your insulin resistance by eating high proteins and fats and less carbs. We want you to, that will decrease your inflammation in your body, which will get you feeling great in just a couple days. And then those clean, healthy foods that you're putting in your body are going to give you an energy boost to your mitochondria cells deep within your body so that you can function and not be like a peanut butter sandwich like me. But this is Faith, Family, and Freedom. We are going to join us back on our next episode where we're going to deep dive into strength exercising and some really controversial stuff that
Oh, it
everybody's
wouldn't be
doing.
us if we weren't talking about controversial subjects. Here we go. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for the controversy
Everybody's
to
doing
come.
it, but nobody's talking about it. If you were inspired by today's conversation, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with your friends, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and join the movement to restore truth, courage, and conviction in our communities. And before you go, take one small step this week to live out your faith in action. Whether it is praying with your kids at home, attending a school board meeting, or standing up for what's right, your voice matters. Until next time, I'm Arthur Gorman. Stay strong, stay faithful, and never stop fighting for your faith, family, and freedom.